Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to go and go through a few of the questions that we've had so far. Firstly, in response to the member Helen White about why the government is overriding settlements that have been made, I want to make it very clear to anybody listening that that is not what the government is doing. Settlements that have been made are still valid. It is only the review clause that is no longer enforceable. And so the following question is, well, why are we not allowing those review clauses? In many of these settlements, the short review period made it difficult to determine whether any remuneration differences were actually due to pay equity issues having re-emerged in such short timeframes, or simply to short-term labour market dynamics. It is also the case that aligning the timing of reviews with collective bargaining rounds risked conflating pay equity and collective bargaining issues. They are distinct issues and they address different issues, which is why we believe in having a 10-year review date. We've been asked also by Helen White about the historical analysis of what women will be losing and why we're compromising the system. It's not the case. There is always going to be those settled claims will continue to be settled. There is still a process for raising and resolving pay equity issues. So the current settlements stand, they don't lose any gains, but we are making changes to ensure that the pay equity process is workable and sustainable going forward, and that will be a better process for all parties to assess whether there is sex-based undervaluation when they're working through that claim. To the member, Jan Tanetti, speaking to her tabled amendment, the changes that we proposed in the bill, they provide greater confidence that the process is identifying situations where sex-based differences in remuneration exist and remain. And of course, there's always going to be people who would want to change, the threshold of 70% or 60%, 50%, 40%. You have to draw a line in the sand somewhere. And I believe that having the higher threshold of 70% makes us have greater confidence that the analysis that we're seeing is based on genuine sex-based undervaluation. It makes sense that the higher the threshold is, the more likely it is that it is based on genuine sex-based discrimination. We've been asked by the member Lawrence Noonan, what evidence do we have for changing the 70% threshold and requiring the 10 years? Look, I have wanted to make it clear with the claims that they can only be raised when there is sex-based discrimination rather than differences in market labour conditions. I think those two changes to the thresholds go hand in hand to achieve better outcomes and more confidence in the pay equity system overall, focusing on genuine sex-based discrimination rather than labour market conditions. And it's going to be my same answer to that same question if we get it throughout the night. There is a question also on risks of the employers attempting to game the system for the new requirements. There is still an obligation under the law for good faith to apply, and dispute resolution processes are available to all parties. If a union or an employee disagrees with the decision on whether or not the requirements are met, that's not changing. There's also a question on who was ultimately consulted. I think that's also quite clear today that we have needed to move quickly to make the changes to the Act to ensure it is workable and sustainable. There is another question as to who is this giving confidence to? And I think the answer to that is very clear. It gives confidence to people bringing a claim. It's for employers, unions and employees. We've also got a question about which other countries have I looked into in comparison to other jurisdictions rather than just focusing on Manitoba. New Zealand's pay equity system is actually quite unique in terms of international comparisons. The UK and Ireland don't allow multi-employer claims. They also don't allow any claims to be made outside of a person's or the claimant's workforce. So we are very unique in that regard, Madam Chair.
Honourable Brooke van Veldon.
Australia does allow multi-employer claims, but they are usually progressed through a different system, again, that we don't have in New Zealand, which is the awards system. And so it is actually quite difficult to compare ourselves internationally to what other jurisdictions do.
Okay, let's get back to it.
What the fuck did I just listen to? I'm sorry,
well, but I'm just glad my brother's mother was messaging me. It took me completely off the topic of what it was. Hi, Kim. If you're watching, yes, you might have just seen me reply. Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm just so fucking confused now because it's like, oh, the claim is still valid, but how is it valid if the bill has already reset everything? Right? It's discontinued current pay equity claims. How are they still valid? Am I stupid? Like, what am I missing here?
Like, it's not valid law because I've just been talking to my support company that does all my personal care over the weekend, and they said their pay equity is now gone out the window, and they're in that group that's not eligible until 2027 at the earliest.
And have they even had a successful negotiation around it?
They did until it was thrown out, yes.
So basically, Brooke van Veldon has shafted Upper Hut workers from being paid equally?
not just Upper Hutt, the whole region, but probably the whole country.
Jesus Christ.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, put it this way: she's also probably affected. Was it home care workers in the election of Tamaki?
She's
Tamaki? She's the MP for Tamaki. Yes.
So yeah, not good at all.
Oh, but don't worry, they're still valid. You just have to try again in 10 years' time or whatever.
By then, most of the carers would have left because they're underpaid.
Well, yeah, they would have left or they would have retired. They might have died. Who knows? I mean, all sorts could happen between now and 10 years. I mean, Brooke van Veldon might be, having a second round attempt of trying to be in Parliament. Or she might be the new ACT leader because David Seymour sat down there and resigned and forced a by-election at Epsom and ran away to Canada.
Yeah. With his property mogul fiance.
No.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed to our Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, TikTok, News Guide, the Order Paper Podcast. YouTube, Twitch, Instagram.